Chapter 1 Ella Northampton, May 17, 2008. Birds were singing outside her kitchen window on that balmy day in spring. Afterward, Ella replayed the scene in her mind so many times that, rather than a fragment from the past, it felt like an ongoing moment still happening somewhere out there in the universe. There they were, sitting around the table, having a late family lunch on a Saturday afternoon. Her husband was filling his plate with fried chicken legs, his favorite food. Avi was playing his knife and fork like drumsticks, while his twin, Orly, was trying to calculate how many bites of which food she could eat so as not to ruin her diet of 650 calories a day. Janet, who was a freshman at Mount Holyoke College nearby, seemed lost in her thoughts as she spread cream cheese on another slice of bread. Also at the table sat Aunt Esther, who had stopped by to drop off one of her famous marble cakes and then stayed on for lunch. Ella had a lot of work to do afterwards, but she was not ready to leave the table just yet. Lately, they didn't have too many shared family meals, and she saw this as a golden chance for everyone to reconnect. Esther, did Ella give you the good news? David asked suddenly. She found a great job. Though Ella had graduated with a degree in English literature and loved fiction, she hadn't done much in the field after college, other than editing small pieces for women's magazine, attending a few book clubs, and occasionally writing book reviews for some local papers. That was all. There was a time when she had aspired to become a prominent book critic, but then she simply accepted the fact that life had carried her elsewhere, turning her into an industrious housewife with 3 kids and endless domestic responsibilities. Not that she complained, being the mother, the wife, the dog walker, and the housekeeper kept her busy enough. She didn't have to be a breadwinner on top of all these, though none of her feminist friends from Smith College approved of her choice. She was satisfied to be a stay-at-home mom and grateful that she and her husband could afford it. Besides, she had never abandoned her passion for books and still considered herself a voracious reader. A few years ago, things had begun to change. The children were growing up, and they made it clear that they did not need her as much as they once had. Realizing that she had too much time to spare and no one to spend it with, Ella had considered how it might be to find a job. David had encouraged her, but though they kept talking and talking about it, she rarely pursued the opportunities that came her way. And when she did, potential employers were always looking for someone younger or more experienced. Afraid of being rejected over and over, she had simply let the subject drop. Nevertheless, in May 2008, whatever obstacle had impeded her from finding a job all these years unexpectedly vanished. 2 weeks shy of her 14th birthday, she found herself working for a literary agency based in Boston. It was her husband who found her the job through one of his clients, or perhaps through one of his mistresses. Oh, it's no big deal, Ella rushed to explain now. I am only a part-time reader for a literary agent. But David seemed determined not to let her think too little of her new job. Come on, tell them it's a well-known agency. he urged, nudging her, and when she refused to comply, he heartily agreed with himself. It's a prestigious place, Esther. You should see the other assistants, girls and boys fresh out of the best colleges. Ella is the only one going back to the work after being a housewife for years. Now, isn't she something? Ella wondered if deep inside her husband felt guilty about keeping her away from a career or else about cheating on her. These being the only two explanations she could think of as to why he was now going overboard in his enthusiasm. Still smiling, David concluded, "This is what I call chutzpah. We are all proud of her. She is a prize, always was," said Aunt Esther in a voice of sentimental that it sounded as if Ella had left the table and was gone for good. They all gazed at her lovingly. Even Abby didn't make a cynical remark, and Orly for once seemed to care about something other than her looks. Ella forced herself to appreciate this moment of kindness, but she felt an overwhelming exhaustion that she had never experienced before. She secretly prayed for someone to change the subject. Janet, her older daughter, must have heard the prayer, for she suddenly chimed in, "I have some good news too." All heads turned toward her, faces beaming with expectations. "Scott and I have decided to get married," Janet announced. "Oh, I know what you guys are going to say, that we haven't finished college yet and all that, but you have got to understand. We both feel ready for the next big move." An awkward silence descended upon the kitchen table as the warmth that had canopied them just a moment ago evaporated. Orly and Abby exchanged blank looks, and Aunt Esther froze with her hand tightened around a glass of apple juice. David put his fork aside as if he had no appetite left, and squinted at Janet with his light brown eyes that were deeply creased with smile lines and at the corners. However, right now he was anything but smiling. His mouth had drawn into a pout as though he had just downed a swig of vinegar. "Great. I expected you to share my happiness, but I get this cold treatment instead," Janet whined. "You just said you were getting married," remarked David, as if Janet didn't know what she had said and needed to be informed. "Dad, I know it seems a bit too soon, but Scott proposed to me the other day, and I have already said yes." "But why?" asked Ella. From the way Janet looked at her, Ella reckoned that was not the kind of question her daughter had expected. She would rather have been asked when or how. In either case, it meant that she could start shopping for her wedding dress. The question why was another matter altogether and had completely caught her off guard. "Because I love him, I guess." Janet's tone was slightly condescending. "Honey, what I meant was, why the rush?" insisted Ella. "Are you pregnant or something?" Aunt Esther twisted in her chair, her face stern, her anguish visible. She took an antacid tablet from her pocket and started chewing on it. "I'm going to be an uncle?" Abby said, giggling. Ella held Janet's hand and gave it a gentle squeeze. "You can always tell us the truth. You know that, right? We will stand by you no matter what." "Mom, will you please stop that?" Janet snapped as she pulled her hand away. "This has nothing to do with pregnancy. You are embarrassing me." "I was just trying to help," Ella responded.